do believe that most of you already know my relationship to Sweetwater. Um, it began in Donovan Prison, where I ended up due to addiction to substances and alcohol. It led to repeated incarcerations and then finally to Donovan Prison. And then it was there at Donovan Prison that Sweetwater was sending Dharma teachers from Sweetwater, and I think with some affiliates that would come in every 2 weeks to kind of offer some encouragement and support to those of us who are inside, who are interested in practicing on a regular basis. I believe even sometimes it would just be me there in the room with a few teachers. But I remember one time when I first got there and I was walking around the yard and I walked past the small chapel, and there was a flyer in the window that said Buddhist teachers coming in on a regular basis, maybe every 2 weeks or something like that. And I was like, wow, how did I end up so fortunate? And that was kind of the beginning of our relationship. Um, Once released in 2010, I returned to Detroit, uh, be near my family, get married, returned to college, and along the way, I was encouraged to participate in Still Point's 3-year seminary program and completed that in 2015. Same time I got my bachelor's degree in clinical social work, and a year later I got my master's, and I'm a practicing uh, clinical social worker to this day in private practice. Um, at Still Point, we have a habit, tradition maybe you can call it, that somebody reads the Dhammapada at some point in the service, usually before the Dharma talk. I don't do that all the time with you folks, but I thought I would do that today if that's okay. So let's see. Those of you who've seen me before, spent time with me before, know I like to read something every once in a while. So I've selected a chapter from, I don't know if you can see it, if it's backwards or not, the Dhammapada. This is a collection of the Buddhist teachings, kind of, I've heard it called greatest hits, by the founder of Still Point, Jerry Larkin. She's no longer there, but she's the one who created Still Point Zen Temple over a decade ago. I can't remember exactly, but it's been there. And then our current guiding teacher is Koho, the one who I studied under. So anyway, let me read chapter 12 of, looks like 26. And this chapter is called Self. If you love yourself, you will guard yourself well. Day and night the wise guard themselves. Establish yourself as a sincere spiritual seeker, and thus be free from useless pain. Then you can teach others. Mold yourself in accordance with the precepts. Allow no gap in credibility, no disgrace. You are your own savior. What other savior could there be? When the Savior and the saved are one, your work is done. In the same way that a diamond can grind all other gems, evil committed by a fool crushes the doer. Like a vine strangling a tree, a person's unwholesome actions strangle her to the delight of her enemy. It is so easy to do the things that harm us, and so hard to do the things that don't. Foolish people cling to wrong views. They mock the teachings of the enlightened ones, and then they reap what they sow. Like a plant that dies when it bears fruit, foolish people bear the fruit of their own destruction. We create our own evil, you and I. We defile ourselves. We are the only ones who can abandon our evil doings. We are the only ones who can make ourselves pure. Your purity and your impurity depend on you completely. This is not someone else's work. Do not neglect your own spiritual efforts for the sake of others' welfare, even when there is a need. Instead, find your own spiritual path and then, seeing it clearly, follow it with earnestness. Yeah. So I decided today to kind of just touch lightly on dreams and awakening with you, since I have your attention, hopefully. I guess to start off, I'm asking everyone to consider, have you ever had a dream and then you've awakened in the middle of the night? They're in the dark, perhaps still angry or frightened or confused. Even though you're awake, uh, perhaps your heart is pounding, maybe you're still angry or furious, and you're still feeling this, even though at the same time you're realizing that I'm no longer dreaming, I'm awake. And even though you sense that I'm stepping out of the dream and I'm stepping into wakefulness, I'm still feeling angry, frightened, confused. Somehow the residue from the dream has followed you out of the dream into your wakefulness. And this residue feels very, very real. In Buddhism, we speak of, and you've probably heard this before, we speak of liberation. To become free. Free from living a life that is lost in a dream state. To awaken. I think if we take the time to look a little deeper into our own lives, perhaps uh, we might be able to glimpse that to live a life that is solely driven by externals, uh, events or circumstances, to see these circumstances in ourselves only with the conditioned mind, that perspective, is to be held a prisoner in a cage of delusion. Now, I use the word delusion, and there's probably many definitions for it, but in this instance, I'm asking you to perhaps see the word delusion as we forget who we are. We have forgotten who we are, perhaps is a better way of saying that. Earlier this morning, there was a Zazen practice. And it is my understanding that when we sit silently in stillness, we cultivate mindfulness. We allow ourselves to become fully present in this moment. Even to become aware that our mind is restless, jumping from this to that and back again. And it seems like this restlessness uh, is completely out of our control. Even witnessing that for ourselves is to become mindful, to enter the present moment. Perhaps also this sort of awareness, this sitting silently in stillness as the witness, could also be called returning to ourselves, returning to who we are, and remembering that we are also Buddha nature. Not something outside of who we are. Perhaps it's more closely related to our core as human beings, even. Um, some of you may already know that I facilitate a 9-month program where um, a cohort may come in and we read a book together, we meet monthly, we discuss how this is going. I try to be of some support to them, and as we're reading, we have questions and have insights. And we started the new cohort recently, and I was reading our text, and I came across a couple of paragraphs I wanted to share with you. Um, from this book, The Wholehearted Way, Dogen's Ben Dowa, commentary by Kosho Uchiyama Roshi, and translated by Shohaku Okumura and Tegan Daniel Lighton. And what I'm about to read for you is Shohaku Okumura's kind of like introduction before they even get to the translation itself. I found that kind of interesting that this insight was available in the introduction before I could even get to the translation of Dogen Zenji's work, but perhaps you will find it relevant or insightful as well. It goes, my teacher, Uchiyama Roshi, says that a bodhisattva, an awakened being, is an ordinary person who has a direction towards Buddha. Direction, quotation marks, is the vow to be a Buddha. Each action in our day-to-day lives should be a manifestation of the way. We practice because we are already in the way. As Dogen Zenji said in the first sentence of Fukan Zazenji, quote, the way is perfect and universal, unquote. The way permeates the whole universe. We are never out of the way. We are already in the way. Dogen Zenji also wrote in Gaku do Jojinshu, quote, Practitioners of the way must first of all have faith in the way. Those who have faith in the Buddha way must believe that one is within the way from the beginning, that one is free from delusive desires, upside down ways of seeing things, excesses or deficiencies, and mistakes. End quotes. This is the basis of our practice. Although we are already in the way, we are deluded and we miss the way. It is strange, but that is reality. We are in the way from the beginningless beginning, and yet we are deluded human beings to the endless end. So our practice, our vow, is endless. And if we practice in this way, then each activity, each practice, moment by moment, is the perfect manifestation of the Buddha way. This is my understanding of Bendo, practice of the Buddha way, or being in the Buddha way. It was back in 2012, um, after after having returned to Detroit for a little while and becoming a member of Still Point Zen Buddhist Temple, um, that I decided to join the seminary program. It's a 3-year program. When I joined the program, uh, I had absolutely no intention of ever becoming a Dharma teacher. That was not my goal. For me, I kind of saw it as an opportunity to have an extended retreat. I was used to half-day retreats once a month on Saturdays. So when the offer or the encouragement to participate in the 3-year program came along, I said to myself, wow, I'll get to kind of steadily practice, maybe deepen it, get some assigned readings, and in 3 years I'll be done. But eventually, towards the end of the training, we're asked to kind of practice giving a Dharma talk, first in front of each other, and then perhaps other teaching opportunities happen at the temple, and I've spoken outside of the temple as well, and I've been invited to speak here a few times too. But in the early days, I was a bit hesitant to speak. Uh, in my mind, giving a Dharma talk or encouraging people is very serious business because you're working with people's lives. It's quite serious. So I was a bit hesitant to take on that sort of responsibility, even though I was ordained or about to be ordained in the early days of me teaching. But at some point, while practicing and occasionally teaching, I came to the understanding that, wait a minute, time is short. We don't live forever. Being an older guy myself, I guess the clock is ticking a little faster for me than somebody who's in their teens or their 20s. I felt unworthy to teach because I was still, and still to this day, uh, struggling with my own inner challenges, my own human flaws, um, trying to navigate anger, resentment, fear of incompetence, greed, shame, uh, regret, all of these things. How can a person be a teacher and not have all of that stuff licked dealt with and out of the way. Around that time, too, I began to also realize that I have to start from where I am, not from where I would like to be. I began to understand that my path um, into the Buddha way, my path is my life, and my life as it is the Buddha way. I'm asking you to perhaps look a little deeper and see that your path, your life, just is the Buddha way. As we kind of work with this, we begin to realize also that it always has been from start to finish. Our life is inseparable from the Buddha way. My path, my life, the Buddha way. Your path, your life is the Buddha way. There is no ideal future or scenario that we have to wait for to start this practice with authenticity in the future. There is no ideal future. For us to sit around waiting for some sort of imagined perfect future in which we can fully live this Dharma, this life, this Buddha way, is like living in a dream. It's like living and being completely oblivious that we are dreaming. And to live like that is to drown in anger, fear, and confusion. And so I believe our practice is to return to this understanding again and again and again and again. This is our practice. We return to this understanding with diligence and self-compassion. Self-compassion being a very critical element. My path, my life, the Buddha way. Your path, your life, the Buddha way. These are inseparable. Uh, Being human beings as we are, we have a tendency to forget this. And that is why it's our practice to return, to recollect, to sit silently in stillness is to recall. It is to return to ourselves. It is to enter the Buddha way. And then with practice, diligent practice, self-compassionate practice, we take what is cultivated on the cushion, on the Zazen cushion, throughout the rest of our days, throughout the rest of our ordinary days and nights. We haven't left it behind on the cushion. And this that we carry with us throughout our ordinary days, throughout our ordinary nights. This ordinariness of practice, of taking care of our responsibilities, taking care of our relationships, taking care of ourselves, looking deeper. The sacredness lives in our very breath. It lives in each moment as they unfold in our ordinary lives. So in closing, I would like to read another passage from the Dhammapada, if you don't mind. It's the next chapter, chapter 13. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just a few stanzas. And this chapter is called This World Seems Heavenly when it is really a trap for fools, a bubble, a mirage. Those who understand this are liberated. A person who used to be lazy and ignorant but now lives heedfully lights up the whole world. Just like the moon freed from a cloud. Whoever dispels negative karma through sincere spiritual effort lights up the world indeed. He is a moon coming out from behind the clouds. The few who understand what is real, like the handful of birds able to escape a trapper's net, fly to the heavens. Thank you very much for listening. I'm hoping that some of what was said might be of some encouragement. Some might say that we are facing challenging times. Challenging times come and go, and I don't think we're the first or the last generation of human beings that are going to face adversity. There is no other time to practice and follow this way of ours than now. To have confidence in your practice, to allow yourself to rest in it, for it to be your refuge. In practicing, I'm just asking you to remember there is nowhere else you need to get to. As we practice, we are there. We have arrived. Thank you very much.